Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. It is episode 418, and this was recorded September 21st, 2016. If you notice, a few things are a little different. Like I'm here, Brian's not, neither is Alan. But I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Sebastian Peak.
And that's who you got going on tonight. So, lucky you. If you want to get a hold of us, you email at podcast@pcpro.com. You can see replays of this and previous podcasts at pcpro.com/podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter. Well, you can do all these things actually at once. You can follow us at Twitter at twitter.com/Ryan Shrout or twitter.com/PCPer. Jeremy, Sebastian, myself, we all have Twitter accounts as well. If you're curious, you can look them up, but I'm not telling you here. Anyway, this has kind of been a week in terms of content. I don't have a whole lot, and I'll tell you what, the one person who did was Sebastian. He certainly he earned his keep this week, and I need to get going on something. Needs to be fewer dog deaths and concussions and other fun things in my life. I'm going to use those as excuses. So anyway, but yeah, one of the first reviews is Sebastian's The Towers of Power. How come you didn't name it Towers of Powers?
I don't know. I was thinking like Tower of Power and a play on that. It wasn't the best title, and really it was just a working title, and I just left it. But here we are. It's published. You can read it at pcper.com. It's got beautiful light box photography to look at. And essentially, I had the idea because I had these three big coolers laying around, and I had recently reviewed the Legrand Macho RT, and I had the Ninja 4 from previous review, and I already owned an NHD 14, which I got back out recently because I switched back to an LGA 2011 platform that I actually used to test these coolers. And just to make things interesting, I used the Hyper 212 Evo to see what it could do against these more expensive coolers, all of which retail for between about $50 and $80. The Ninja's the cheapest. When I reviewed it, it was around $55. It's dropped about $10. And the other two are about $79, depending on the version that you get of the NHD 14. But if you look at the site, you can see the comparisons on these, what they're made of, how heavy they are. Obviously, the Noctua, it's the only dual tower cooler, and I kind of felt like it had an unfair advantage because of that. It also is the only cooler with two fans out of the box. I did not look for a second fan for the Evo. I just wanted to test it as is. Like, what do you get for $29 out of the box? So all of these are just as they come. And if you go to the results page in the review, you'll see that the D14 did indeed come out on top, which isn't that surprising considering how big it is and that second fan. But that Legrand Macho, which I had tested before with a 6600K i5, which was correctly pointed out by comments that this is not that stressful of a workload. It's a quad core chip. It's only a 91 watt TDP on that i5, and it doesn't even come close to using that most of the time. The only difference between the 6600, which is a 65 watt part, and the 6600K is basically the overclocking headroom and 200 megahertz. So running that thing at stock was not much of a test, but it actually did really well with not only the stock, but also a 4 gigahertz overclock on all 6 cores. It held its own nicely. It finished about 2.5 degrees behind the D14 under like the most stressful load. It was pretty much tied with it at normal loads. I use the X264 benchmark to stress all the cores for a normal workload. And then I use Prime 95, the small FFT, like max power consumption torture test to do stress temps. So it's not a realistic test at all. So if you're just looking at the actual loads, which is the light green bar on these graphs, you'll see these are really evenly matched on for the big coolers. And then that Hyper 212 Evo is only like 3 or 4 degrees behind. So you're never even coming close to any dangerous temperature levels. In fact, it keeps this processor, even at a 4 gigahertz overclock, nice and cool. I never, even not accounting for room temperatures, which these are delta temps on these charts, I was seeing, I don't think I ever saw any more than 81 degrees on the hottest core. 82 maybe. So nowhere near danger. And that was kind of the story here, even though it was quite a bit louder if you look at noise levels under load, like significantly louder. 42 decibels, 42.8 decibels is still not that loud, especially if it's in a case. That'll go down a couple decibels in a case, unless it's a really like open case with like a mesh front or something. But if you can deal with 40, which is still probably about as loud as your GPU, so you're not really going to hear it, then you can save a lot of money. But for absolute performance, the D14 did come out on top. So you can check out the review for details about it, but I don't have a D15. I know Maury's the one who reviewed that, but the 14 still holds its own years later now that it's been discontinued. And you can still find them for between $69 and $79 new on Amazon or Newegg. It's still a great cooler with there was a lot of headroom left on the table.
Nice. And of course, everybody likes the 212.
It just won't die.
No. It's amazing. And I would say that maybe I just have a great sample, but I've owned 2 of these and they both did really well. And I've never had a processor throttle or run hot using it. It doesn't have the best mounting system, but it's not that bad. I guess it depends on how flat the base of yours is, because you have the exposed 4 copper heat pipes on the bottom. Mine's really flat. It's not perfect, but I just use, I don't know if I do it consciously, if I use a little extra thermal paste or what it is, but I don't use very much thermal paste on any of these coolers, just enough to cover the CPU. And it seems to kind of even it out. And even though if I put my hand on the top of the heatsink with the Evo, I can still kind of twist it around a little bit when it's mounted. It still has enough contact to do really well. So I came away very impressed with the Evo, but if you spend a little bit more, you can get a lot quieter results. And one quick footnote, as far as noise, I think my noise floor, even with literally everything in my house shut off, is still a little high for me to give you the true picture of what some of these sound like at idle. 33 to 34 decibels is as quiet as I can get the room. So you'll see they're kind of clustered together at around 34. That may not be accurate. Maybe they might be at 32, 33, but basically I could just say they're very quiet. You're not really ever going to hear any of the top 3 over any other component in your case. The Evo you can hear, but it's not any louder than a video card, and there's no whine to it. It's just air noise.
So
go ahead, Al.
Do you think that the majority of the noise is coming from maybe a lower quality fan on the 212?
I don't hear a bearing sound at all. I never hear there's no...
Because I was wondering about fan replacement. Like if you put a knock to a fan on the 212 and still be under a D14 and in a smaller form factor, if it would kind of increase performance a substantial amount or not.
That's a great question, and it sounds like I have some more work to do. That'd be another one. Like, what great combo, especially Scythe fans.
Mm-hmm.
They make, the one on the Ninja is unbelievably quiet and still moves quite a bit of air. So get a 120 millimeter ultra quiet fan from Noctua or Scythe or another, there's a few other quiet fans out there. And I'd have to look at the mounting clips that come with the Evo, but I bet it would work with any of those. They're 25 millimeter width fans.
Yeah.
That could be a great combo.
One of those Corsair golf ball fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Because then you're only at 45, maybe $50 total. Although at that price, I have never used a better cooler than the Ninja. It's ridiculously good.
We've had a couple of Scythe coolers in here over the years, and yeah, like they seem to make underrated, really good coolers that are super quiet.
Yeah, and the mounting hardware that comes with it, it isn't as fancy as a Noctua, but once you get it mounted, it is on there. Like it's rock solid. And it's not a real pain to install or anything like that.
So do you like live by an interstate or something that your noise in your house is just that kind of constantly high?
No, I mean, obviously 33 isn't high.
No, it's not high,
but it's not like whisper quiet. I would hope that I could get down into like 29, 30. So I need to get a different sound pressure meter, maybe compare it against. I've never used sound pressure meter apps, but I could try a couple phones and see what they're saying. Get a second opinion, get another meter. But it literally gets so quiet in my basement where I test these that I feel that weird pressure in my ears just because it's so silent. I've turned off the refrigerator, everything's unplugged upstairs, everything's shut down, and I still get a reading of 33. So we'll see.
It's tectonic plates grinding together thousands of miles away.
Well, I do grind my teeth, so maybe it's that and the fact that I'm seething the entire time I'm running these tests.
Yeah.
Well, you are a dad.
So angry. He only makes me do cooler reviews and cases. Why can't I do something fun?
Hey, I do gaming headphones too.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned that.
Why do you say that, Josh?
Because Monster sent you the Fatality gaming headphones. Fatality.
That means gaming. It's overclocking, really. But I won't spend too much time on these because I think listeners need to hear somebody else talk. So for a few seconds,
you just keep going.
Okay. These are super light. That was the big takeaway. They are 6 ounces total, including the microphone.
That's like your soul weighs heavier than that.
Yeah, it's like the last pair of gaming headphones I looked at was a pound. So these are less than half as heavy as, say, the Corsair headphones. Or, the Corsairs were a little under a pound. I think most of the gaming headsets are in the like 10 or 12 to 16 ounce range. And the Logitech ones were a full pound, the G series. But these are just feather light. And I'm thinking, how can these have like big sound if they're this light? They can't have strong magnets in them. But really, it's just the construction of like the materials they use and the way they design the headband and the actual ear cups. Because the drivers, even though I can't find any specs on them, I didn't rip these apart to look at what the driver size was. They actually produce the most powerful sound from any of these gaming headsets I've tested so far.
Aren't they going to be either 40 or 50?
I would expect it. Like they sounded like 50 millimeter drivers, and I've heard 40 millimeter drivers sound like really weighty
usually
before.
The 40 millimeter ones that have kind of the Logitech ones where they have the special materials to make it really stiff to give you good sound,
bigger magnets.
Not only good bass, but also really tight mid-range and highs, as compared to some of these other 50 millimeter drivers, which give you good bass, but everything else is kind of muddled because you just don't have that same stiffness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Edge stiffness. Now, isn't it the edge, like the outer edge, that gives you the treble response? Like that's where I don't remember. But these, I would say they have that kind of 50 millimeter sound. You have a very warm sound signature. So there's a lot more bass and lower mid-range presence to these. But it didn't sacrifice detail too much. I've heard headphones that sounded really, really warm and you didn't really get much treble out of them and it sounded kind of muddy. There's another term that's used where they talk about it being kind of smeared. And these weren't like that. The drivers are still fast enough that you don't get a smeared sound and they didn't sound thumpy at the bottom end. If you turn them up really loud, and these actually can get really, really loud, they're all analog. They just have an analog 3.5mm connector on them, which is one of those headset connectors that has the microphone element as well.
Now, what am I supposed to do with that, Sebastian? What am I
For you
supposed
Apple
to plug
fans
that
that don't
into?
recognize
Yeah,
the interface.
what Apple laptop are you going to plug that into that has the headset jack, Ken? But if you don't have a laptop that has a headset jack, and I think most laptops do now, if you're using this with a PC or something, the version of these that they're selling online include one of those Y adapters that splits it out to have a headphone and a mic separately. This one that's currently in Best Buy stores is in the console, like gaming accessories section. So it's for console gamers or for use with a laptop. So when I was using it to test out the microphone, I used my phone and I used like a voice recorder app to record myself with the mic. But they said that if you order it online, like the link I provided from the Monster store online, you get the Y adapter with it. But this, like I said in the review, very fun sounding headphones. If you like bass, these are great. And they don't really sacrifice the rest of the audio spectrum just for the bass, but you're getting so much of it that if you don't like that, you're going to have to use EQ and just turn the bass down a little bit. And then they sound very balanced. So I was impressed with them. I thought they were really comfortable. The pads are squishy. They're really kind of lightweight. And I thought that they weren't going to do much for like reducing the noise from around the room, but they actually do. They do isolate pretty well, whatever material they're using. I was surprised because I was like hammering on my keyboard just to kind of test it out, and I had a couple of things on in the basement around me, and no, it actually lowered the volume considerably.
So is it a pleather or more of a?
It's almost like a felt.
Like
It's a very soft
velour
cloth. It's not like a velvet. It's just, it feels like kind of a thin cloth with foam right below it. So it's very soft. The headband is a little bit stiffer foam, and the ear cups have very, very soft foam, which helps too because these aren't the biggest ear cups. They're an over ear design, but they're not really that big. They could almost be on ears. But when you put them on, they sort of squish around your ear and then they just rest against the side of your head.
Didn't Monster originally design the first Beats and then crazy things happen?
Bad things happen.
I mean, Monster produced the Beats for several years at that point, like when they were more of a quote-unquote premium option. When they were only $400 headphones and they weren't kind of doing $99 offerings and stuff.
These are not unlike Beats, by the way. If you've heard Beats headphones with the significant bass presence.
The bass,
it's all about the bass.
And
these absolutely have that kind of sound. The only other thing I'll add is the cable that comes with these is very short. It's not removable. So if you're okay with a 3-foot 9-inch total length from the end to end, which is perfect for like using it with a laptop or using it with the game controller.
Most people are satisfied by a length that long.
Yeah. I stand at my computer, so when I was standing, I had to crouch down to plug it down into my tower and like stand up. And I kept on like pulling the headphones down.
Your head was bobbing up and down the whole time. It doesn't sound comfortable.
So overall, are they worth the price?
I felt like they are kind of right there. Like if you look at what the competition is, the prices have come down on Logitech's current offering, which is the G633 in a wired model. That's come down a lot. They're $99 now. And then you look at the Corsair Void series, and the Void that I reviewed was $79.99, but the extra $10 gets you that USB Dolby headphone adapter, which does simulated surround. If we were comparing these head to head just for 2-channel analog, because that's all these are capable of, I would say these beat out the Corsair for just the stereo sound. These were more lively, a little bit better channel separation, I thought. Obviously better bass. Compared to the Logitech, though, they weren't quite as good, but that's just because the Logitech have such a balanced, realistic sound. The Logitechs don't have quite as much bass as these. They're capable of it. Low frequency effects in surround sound great with the Logitechs, These just overall sounded really powerful. And if you like bass and if you like that kind of Beats headphone sound too, they're going to be great. Plus, they're super light. So if you do not like big, heavy gaming headsets, that's, I think, the biggest selling point for these. They're only 6 ounces. And the clamping force isn't that heavy. It's kind of a medium clamping force, so it's not really squeezing the side of your head. You can barely feel it on the top of your head because there's no real weight to them. So you can wear them for a long time, and they're going to be comfortable. And the
More
boom
comfortable
mic
than
comes right
Grados?
out. What's that?
More comfortable than Grados? Probably yes.
Yeah. Grados. Yeah. I love Grados. I'm wearing a pair of their iGrado headphones right now, but after a while, these push into the side of your head a little bit because it's just plastic. And the regular Grado headphones, like the SR series, after a while, I always had to take them off. I can only go for a couple hours at a time with those.
I mean, when you make your ear cups out of concrete, it tends to happen.
I have no idea what kind of sponge stuff these things have, but yeah, it's
industrial
they're fine
grade
at first, and then about 20 minutes in, you start to feeling them, and if you have not, worked on it for a while, after about an hour, they're kind of unbearable. But you know what? If you take the time and break them in,
or get those
better.
plush ear cup upgrades for them.
Yeah, they got those.
Cheating.
If I went back to Grado, I'd love to get another pair of Grados. I don't have any right now other than these. But if I went back to like the SR 325 or even the RS2s, I would have to do a different pad.
Yeah,
because
these are the
I'm too
220
spoiled by my Audio
vibes.
Technica. The ADA H700Xs are so comfortable. You can't even really feel you're wearing them. Anyway.
The Sound Blaster XH5s I have, they're comfy. They're about the same price range. They're comfy, big, cushy, but they're heavy. They're well padded, but they're not, the couple of ounces you're describing. They's about a pound. So after a while, as squishy and nice as they are, it starts to get a little bit heavy.
Yeah, I was a little worried too about build quality. I described it as adequate. I haven't tried to destroy them by any means, but they didn't feel flimsy. Excuse me. There's more flex to them because they're a little bit thinner through the headband, but it didn't feel like they were going to break. It's just kind of a more pliable, thinner kind of ABS plastic that they're using, and it seems to work. They seem to have engineered them well enough. They're not real creaky, or they don't seem like they're going to break.
Cool. I forgot to mention a few things in the introduction. You can subscribe to us, get an email before the podcast, pcper.com/subscribe. And also, we got a Patreon. We're up to like $2,400 a month, which is nice. And if Ryan were here, he would be telling people, hey, if you account, I will read off whatever you have typed in, no matter what, unless it's something really, really horrific.
That's not no matter what.
Like Jeremy Steele's manhole covers.
You saw me doing that?
It's a fetish. Right, Kitty? There's a cat
way of
here,
life.
I mean. Yeah. And and if you subscribe enough, you can get this pussy. No, you can't. My cat is not for sale. And she's kind of
the once wee calico.
Oh, jeez.
The once in
from
future
chair to
kitty.
chair.
Not so wee anymore.
No, she's not. But, well, she's still pretty tiny for a cat. But, yeah. She's a good kitty. And she likes to get attention. Right, cat?
Shocking.
All right, she's going to sit on my wife's desk. Next, that's all the reviews. Hopefully we'll have a few more next week. I'm trying to get one out if life would ever cooperate with all the goings on. But we do have some news. Alan is over in Seoul, South Korea. Not Seoul, South Korea, but Seoul, South Korea. Talking to Samsung, and they have announced the 960 Pro and 960 Evo. Jeremy, have you read up about these?
No, I have not.
Damn you. Anyway, there are two new M.2 NVMe class They have a new packaging that they're using that it's kind of an interesting controller and multiple layers of NAND, and of course it's using their 3D stuff. And these things are fast. So the 960 Pro can go up to what, 2.0 gigabytes per second, and something like 100,000 IOPS. I mean, just insane. I mean, it's generation style of NVMe. I mean, the stuff is just fast. So yeah, the Pro is 3.5 gigabytes per second. I mean, that's
crazy. I look at that and I think, oh, that should be a lowercase b. That's gigabits, right?
No, it's
yeah,
it's not.
yeah, no, it's 3.5 gigabytes per second. That's.
But look at those reads. Only 2.1 gigabytes a second on the writes. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah.
I'll
so
be
terrible.
standing there for at least a fraction of a
measurable
second
amount of
waiting
time.
for copying an entire Blu-ray over from one drive to the other one in like how many seconds would that be?
Just
8?
So it's 25 to 50 gigs depending on dual layer.
Think
Yeah.
of all the seconds that would take.
And you're just wasting those, watching those seconds tick away. All that data.
I don't think you can come up with
Uh,
enough stuff to do on your computer to actually use this bandwidth. It would be so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
330K IOPS. And the 960 Evo is no slouch either. Sequential reads are 3.2 gigs per second, and writes are 1.5 gigs, which is still, that's really nice. I mean, and that's the 250 gig drive. The 501 terabyte have much better writes, 1.8 and 1.9 gigs. IOPS, they're going to take a small hit, but not much. They're actually right about the same. Well, okay. So on the Pro, the 1 terabyte can do 440K IOPS. And on the 960 Evo 1 terabyte, 380K. I mean, that's
so
just...
It's up to you if the 12 cents a gig is worth it.
Good Lord. I mean, sure, we've got SATA options that do 530 megs and 100K IOPS. So you can see that this is a significant jump up in overall performance, and it's a big jump from previous generations. I mean, they're of M.2 NVMe. 40% higher reads, 40% higher writes, 10% more IOPS, 200% random performance in IOPS. It just
the
is.
lifetime is crazy.
Yeah.
For the Pro, they're saying 1.2 petabytes write.
That's
really
good.
That's an insane amount of data.
I see that part of that performance, at least for the Evo, comes with a significant increase in the amount of SLC cache they get. Because, of course, the Evo series uses part of the flash as an SLC in an SLC mode. And he says that the 1 terabyte model uses 42 gigabytes of the total flash for SLC.
That's
so unless,
bigger than the first SSDs.
Yeah, so if you
Yes,
are
yes,
not
it
writing any more than that, you're writing right to SLC. You're going to get huge performance out of that.
And it'll happily move it back to the MLC once you're done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the prices are well, they're high, but you got to expect that because they're so damn fast. It's what, 58 cents a gig for the Evo, or is that the Pro?
52.
Sorry.
52 for the Evo, 64 if you're a Pro.
For the Pro.
Which
Yeah,
for
I
an
mean,
NVMe M.2 is not ridiculous.
Yeah,
Gosh,
129. What did
But it's not
the
ridiculous.
Pro launch at when the 950 Pro came out? Wasn't it like wasn't it over
It's like
200 for
almost
the 5? Go ahead.
I think the original 950 Pro was almost $200 for a 256.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah, it
still sells for $185 on Amazon right now.
Yeah. So they haven't gone down in price, and they're still damn fast. But boy, this is a big big step forward, and certainly with 960 Pro, a 512 gig models, $329, $330, 64 cents a gig, which that's expensive for a lot of us, but boy, if you're going to use it, if you're going to actually use and abuse it with video editing, and you just hate to wait for everything, yeah. But the Evos are not that far behind, and 52 cents a gig, so 500 will be approximately $260.
Those will be the most expensive per gig. It drops from there.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a nice product. I mean, Samsung's doing some really good, interesting things in storage, and certainly you could argue that they really are the market leaders. They're kind of the Intel of storage, and they're what?
Kind of the Intel of storage.
Yeah, which is a step above the actual Intel of storage. So it's funny stuff. But boy, you can't wait. I mean, it comes up into a 2 terabyte version in 960 Pro. That's gonna be pricey.
It's $1,300.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if you think about.
Well, you compare it to an Intel, and that ain't so bad.
Yeah, like compared to a 750 or a P3600 or something like that.
North of 2,000.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're just getting smoking performance. Smoking.
Plus, you'd think it'll drive the cost of those existing 950 Pros down.
One can only hope. Do you remember when the 830 Pros were out and the 840s then were released, and how little the 830s ever dropped in price?
Yeah.
But mainly because performance was essentially identical.
Yeah, the Samsung SSDs never really seemed to drop that much in the previous generation when it was released. They're pretty good at getting them out of the channel, I think.
Yeah.
But are you saying that Samsung SSDs are like the Apple of the SSD world?
Yeah, I am.
Right.
Their prices really never drop, and then they just sort of go away when the new models come out.
OWC is what I would say, or they learned from OCZ and realize you shouldn't drop your prices too low.
Yeah, but Black Friday with these drives will be fun. Samsung always has good Black Friday stuff for their newest generation, which they launch about this time.
Now I just need a processor and motherboard that will actually push these.
Yeah,
and probably some new RAM as well.
PC building time, I think, is soon for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing.
January,
my
February,
bank account is
March,
yelling
April,
at me, but at the same time,
yeah. But Rivet Networks, they announced the killer E2500 gigabit Ethernet controller. Now, Jeremy, have you read up on this one?
Oh, I did take a look at it, but Sebastian actually wrote it.
Oh, Sebastian.
Did I?
I don't know. Did you?
I may have written it, but who says I read it?
Wow. So you're the same as I am when I'm posting articles.
I did. I wrote it, and I remember some of it, but I'm looking now.
What is Rivet Networks? This doesn't ring a bell to me.
Killer
Is that their name behind it?
Well, did they did Qualcomm? Didn't Qualcomm originally acquire?
I don't know if they still own them.
Was that?
I believe they still own them, but Rivet is like a spin-off business division of Qualcomm. So they're still getting the benefits to Qualcomm on sort of the hardware side and using their infrastructure for NICs and everything, but Rivet is kind of their own business unit, I believe.
What do they think they are? A hardware company or something? Or a hard drive company or something?
I feel like the takeaway from this is obviously it's new hardware. Their previous version was the E2400, but which
was based on an Atheros networking chip, correct?
Yes, and I don't know exactly what this one is based on, but they made as much out of the new software as the new hardware, and the new software that is being introduced with this has a new version of they have like an automated program that looks at traffic and does traffic shaping for you on your PC when you have it installed. And when I reviewed their like top of the line wireless card last year, the AC1535, it did it did a great job just manual, because I've done quality of service stuff manually before, but I just turned all that off and just let it decide. And it made a huge difference as far as like ping times in a game and kind of looking at where the traffic was coming from. And it has all these different, categories, and it looks at what should take priority for you. So their charts that are in this news post show like what the like performance relative to what they say the competition is, and of course big gains in actual like milliseconds and packets and things they're claiming here. So I'd like to see one of these in a laptop and run some tests and see how it works in real life. But it was very impressive what they did with their wireless card before. I haven't tested one of their LAN cards, but interesting stuff. And I'm sure the software is going to be available to anybody using any of these newer killer cards as well. So there's definitely the camp that's all about the Intel NIC and managing traffic yourself at the router. But for those who just want to install a software program and let it take care of it for them, it's an interesting idea. And it's not that you have to go out and buy it. It's that it will come on select motherboards. They're working with MSI and Gigabyte now. So you're going to see gaming-oriented motherboards that come with the E2500 NIC. And they're going to obviously have the software available, and it'll come on the CD and it'll be downloaded from their site. So you download the driver, you have the card already, you might as well take advantage of it. So we'll see, because I've noticed a lot of motherboards in the last couple of years, even at the lower price points, like under $100, were coming with Intel NICs. So
yeah, now you only get the brag if you get two of them.
Mature technology, obviously. Gig E. Now we just need the 10 gig network adapters built into motherboards that don't drive costs up above the roof, and not to mention 10 gig switches.
yeah,
And maybe a 10 gig provider.
The cabling.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
big money.
Even
way.
5 gig would be fine.
Yeah, but that's not
even a solid gig that you're not lying about.
Yeah, the gig that's really only 860.
Yeah, on a good day.
I've never had more than, I think, what is the theoretical max for gigabit? Like 120 megabytes a second?
125.
125? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like 100 before. 105.
Yeah.
But that was inside the house, transferring PC to PC?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then wireless, we won't even go there. But
Wow.
my router says it'll do 2,500 megabits per second. I don't understand.
Why
I'm
are
at
we only
867.
getting 6K. Yeah.
And of the 867, I have 700 usable. And then I usually get 400.
Nice. So here NVIDIA has released some new drivers, not to mention AMD as well. And for what application, mind you?
Some sort of game you might be benchmarking wheels on?
I don't know if I'm going to actually do that, but yeah, it's the Forza Horizon. It's the second Forza product that's been released for the PC, the first being Apex, which was free to play and still is. It's got all kinds of graphics goodness, and they finally added wheel support in that. But no, they both AMD and NVIDIA released the 372.90 drivers for Forza. It encompasses all the other fixes and updates and other game-ready drivers that we have seen in the past. Because there's been a few pretty big titles released in the past couple of weeks that, of course, I have not played because I just don't play games anymore. Woe be the 44-year-old man playing games other than World of Warships. Yeah.
And NVIDIA did fix a major oopsie as well. The Vive will work over DisplayPort with your Pascal-based GPU again. I'm sure they have many regrets.
Yeah. They may have gotten hammered a little bit for that from the 800
And it wasn't
people
me
who
this
actually have
time.
Vive. Yeah,
So
good
don't
job on that.
whine, Telly. Wasn't me.
Right. MSI celebrates the 30th anniversary in style limited edition GTX 1080.
What's so special about it, Josh?
I don't know because I didn't read it.
Have you looked at it? Look at that. Look at that thing.
Is it shiny?
Look at that.
It's
Isn't
partially
that
shiny.
a sexy EK Predator water
Hey,
block
for
on
our
there?
audio-only listeners like me, because I
Nope.
have no return video,
Nope.
what does it look like?
It looks like
Ooh.
a water-cooled GTX
Not
1080.
just any water cooler.
Yeah.
That is actually pretty sweet. That's one of those EK
It
Predator.
looks like it came out of Stargate.
It's
It looks more like Deus Ex, I think.
Oh, fine.
yeah, those the Predator, like the 240 I reviewed. This one is 120 millimeter, but it's got
And
the
she
pump.
custom built.
Yeah, it's got the pump and reservoir right on the like the same assembly as the radiator and the fan. So it's like a chunky thing. You're gonna have. There are gonna be a lot of cases you won't be able to mount that in, but as long as you could put it up top
Yeah.
on almost any case.
Is that one of those all-in-one water cooling where you can add plumbing? Like,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
in theory, you
yeah.
could put your CPU in this loop as well. Because if you have a 240,
You look at it, and
Hmm.
although there's a little cap on it that says not user serviceable, you can add liquid to it. So yeah, you can add
Unless
it
they
to a
use
loop.
just standard hardware, like the tubes, everything that they sell separately, they just kind of have assembled for you. But you can rework this thing and add other radiators or other components into it.
And they're not those ugly corrugated ones either.
No, these are like the heavy like hoses. Look like they came out of a car.
Car.
Hey, you also get a nice wooden box that it comes in. They didn't actually have any good pictures of the wooden box, but you get like a little keepsake of it. And out of the box, the boost is 1860, which it's a decent bump from your stock speed. It's not huge, but with that cooler, you're probably going to get more. And
That's
yes,
a full
although I
coverage
didn't,
block too, right?
yeah, well, the boost is 1860, the base is 17 and change, 1721.
I would say 2,000 or bust on this thing. Why would you buy this if you weren't going to overclock it anyway? But
You wouldn't. And although I refuse to post the picture because of my personal beliefs, it does have the RGB disease. So if you like the 16.8 million colors, you can have the 16.8 million colors.
that's a lot of colors.
It is. It can also render that many, I believe, on your screen if you've got a good enough monitor.
You know, sometimes RGB is cool. I actually kind of like it when it's just one color, but having choice is nice. Like you can make it any shade of blue or red or green or white
I
that
like
you want.
purple.
Yeah,
It's
you
so
can
it
have
burns
purple,
my
Josh.
eyes out when I stare at it. You don't have that when
That
when you
reaction
stare
to purple light.
at purple
No.
LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have purple LED
The
blindness,
afterglow is
Josh?
sort of a bluish white, which is weird.
Sure, why not? It hurts my eyes.
you know what else will hurt your eyes?
John Holmes, but we're not going there.
Well,
Oh. Anyway.
No, sticking,
AMD's upcoming what?
1,331
Anybody
pins.
else have anything else that they want to say about this 30th
No, Josh, you can go ahead and
anniversary
move
MSI
along.
limited edition GTX 1080?
How much does it cost?
We don't know
we don't
yet.
know.
Nobody knows.
A lot of money.
$1,000.
Expected. It
Are they
probably
going to
won't
have
be
a
more than
30th
Titan.
anniversary RX 480?
It hasn't been 30 years yet.
Comes in many shades of red.
No,
That's a
MSI
great- you know what's a
will
great
have-
idea, Josh? Why aren't there anniversary editions of old hardware? Why can't I buy an anniversary
Hey,
Pentium?
RX 480 is brand new, man. It's 3 months old.
Intel, breaking news, Intel is releasing an LGA 1151 486.
And
So you
Voodoo
could
has risen from the
relive-
grave to do an anniversary edition Voodoo 5.
Yeah.
Does anybody own the Voodoo assets? Who bought them up? Anybody? Or did it
NVIDIA.
just kind of go under?
NVIDIA
bought
swallowed
all
them
their
whole.
Nvidia
intellectual
bought them.
property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Buried them in an unmarked grave once they done digested them.
It's like
Yeah.
the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're
Well,
just
they
in
put a bunch of
crates.
trailers in the old NVIDIA parking lot, and they stored a bunch of the 3D effects engineers there in temporary housing. So, true story. Yeah.
In packing containers?
AMD's upcoming socket AM4 pictured with 1331 pins. Jeremy, what's wrong with that number?
Well, it doesn't spell leet.
No, it
so
does not.
They missed, but then again, I'm really glad that they missed because I'd prefer a palindrome.
Yeah.
No, I didn't even.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
not elite that I didn't even understand why somebody brought up 1337 the other
Wait,
day. I'm like, why? Why?
I
would it need
thought
to
you
be
were feigning
1337?
ignorance to my joke. You just didn't get it.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
No, I had no idea what you were talking about. That's right. That was in the chat the other day. Like, why 7? Who cares? Why is this obsession with 7? And Ken's just like, I just like numbers that end in 7. I'm like, that is okay, whatever.
Oh, Sebastian.
That's
Yes.
because he got an iPhone 7. So he's just like, hey, 7 is cool.
777.
So it's kind of interesting. There's been a lot of discussion about pin grid versus land grid arrays. And so,
It's a hot topic in my household.
yes, it is. I imagine Julian
No,
is
it's all about
drooling
short throw
over all the new
projection there.
hardware, literally.
Dude, short throw projection is amazing, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But anyway, the long and short of it is when you make a PGA style CPU like AMD, some of the liability and costs of PGA goes to AMD rather than with Intel when they just have the pads on their CPUs. And that increases the cost to the motherboard manufacturers because the LGA sockets cost more than the PGA sockets. And so Intel shifted over some of the overhead and the pricing onto its motherboard manufacturers. And also, because you only have those pads on the CPU, your pads aren't going to get bent. They're not going to not get in contact with a properly done LGA array. And so also when those LGA kind of pins or whatever you want to call them get bent, then the motherboard manufacturers are on the hook for them. Just ask, well, anybody who's bent those damn things, like Maury and others, that you send them
back
into
in
the
the day,
motherboard
we
manufacturers.
straightened them with a big pen or a mechanical pencil.
Or a
Well, you could
toothpick.
do that with a PGA. You could go and
Yep.
straighten as many pins as you want, as long as you don't, really hammer on them and break them
Well,
off, which
You
is
break
harder
one
to do
and
than you
you
think.
buy a new one.
Yeah.
The way I
But-
see it is there's strength in numbers, so why not have more pins? Because then think about how strong those copper pins are going to be together on the bottom of that CPU.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
they're going to be
when your thermal
thinner.
paste turns into glue and you try to remove, I've done that before where I've actually pulled
Oh yeah, that happens.
CPUs out of ZIF sockets pretty easily.
That happens to me all
Yeah.
the time with
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
AM3 CPUs.
Oh, like when you pull the heat
That's
sink
why
off.
there's
and it's got a
ZIF, not
fuse.
ZRF.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I that scares me. I was
Yeah.
very happy when Intel moved to LGA because I have definitely pulled a CPU, ripped it right out of the socket with the heatsink before.
Yeah. You have to remember to twist on AM3 CPUs and not just pull
Yes.
straight off.
True story.
in-
So
in
anyway,
many walks of
we
life.
have seen the first ones of these. We've seen pictures. We've seen running products with Bristol Ridge, which is their Carrizo on steroids that runs from 3.8 to 0.2 gigahertz and 65 watts, nearly 1100 megahertz clock speed on the Jeep. So staying at 65 watts and these specs is more impressive than some people have considered, that especially it's still a 28 nanometer product. So we're seeing those already. HP has an OEM model out that was spotted at Costco. Somebody has gotten some engineering samples and initial motherboards out and done overclocks up to about 4.8 gigahertz, which is pretty good considering that Kaveri tops out at about 4.6. And you're looking at a pretty marked decrease in power consumption in between the older Kaveri, which is 95 watts, and these new Bristol Ridges, which are 65 watts. And Bristol Ridge is a little bit faster overall and supports DDR4 in the new 1331 socket. I'll be very curious what when more information comes out about how many PCIe lanes that will officially have chipset options. They're basic right now, but we'll get more information here in the next couple of months soon. But speaking of LED lighting, introducing the EVGA Supernova G2L power supply series. Is this the one that have the plugs on the inside have LED lighting?
You didn't even know you needed this.
Yeah. It does ones of colors. It does white and pale white and a lighter shade of pale and various other colors of white. So if you want it, you can have it because it ships. Completely modular, nice little cables with see-through plastic around the sides. If you decide you hate it, just get some different cables that are pure black and the LED lighting will probably go away. But
is there not like a hardware or software switch for that?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
PR didn't mention it because, well, they don't want you to turn them off because it's fancy. But as much as we make fun, Lee, who's been doing power supply for us since the invention of the power supply, has really usually liked the VGA Supernova series. They've got the Eco fan, so until you're at about 20-25% of load, your fan doesn't even kick on. Once it kicks on, they're very quiet. They have always lived up to their rating. This one's going to be an 80 plus gold. You'll probably see a platinum come out at some point, but chances are it's going to live up to it unless they've completely changed everything. And they're also one of the companies that offers the 10-year warranty, so if your lights go out, you can get a new one. It's okay. So it'll be interesting to see this hit the review platform, because from the sounds of it, it's going to be exactly like the Supernovas previously, a nice, solid, good power supply, but it'll provide internal illumination to your case if you're in there trying to find that PCI cable that dropped out for some mysterious reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're jamming your screwdriver into a case that
I think you're
You got the
supposed to
power supply
unplug it before
going?
you play with the screwdriver.
yeah, you need
Supposed
to actually
to.
turn
You don't
it
have
off.
to.
Yeah.
Apparently,
so you won't have as
there-
much lighting when you're doing maintenance.
apparently there is an LED switch on the back, they say, if you look at
Nice.
the product page. So that's good to know. You can disable that if it gets to be too much, maybe. Keeps you up at night.
It conflicts with my Asus Aura motherboard and my MSI Gaming Z video card with the LED lighting.
So we should just
wanna
have
know-
all white LEDs and everything. Just put really high quality white LEDs on everything so everything
Yes.
matches.
You'll
wanna
have
know
to get
when we're
some
gonna have-
Corsair RAM with the proper light just to tie it all in.
Get one of those, flammable cold cathode tubes.
Oh, weren't those the days?
We should bring it
Yeah.
back. We should bring back the cold cathode tube.
Yeah. But when are we going to have LED CPU cooling? That's what I want to know. I know we've got
Soon.
fans
already.
I think like some of the Corsair like self-contained blocks that you change the color.
Yeah.
On it,
I guess you're right.
But I mean, generally, when your CPU cooler is headed towards red and then passing red towards blue or white, you should start to worry.
Yeah.
Gonna melt. Well, you know what? That's the news for the week. Reviews and news. Again, it's been slow. Ryan's in Austin, Alan's in Seoul. I'm in Laramie. Sebastian's in Kalamazoo.
That's right.
That was a lucky guess by me. Who knows what Jeremy's at? He's just near a beer.
Kalamazoo is famous. We're in several songs,
Several.
mostly from like the 1940s.
And not to mention the really annoying rumble at 33 decibels that just covers the entire town and nobody knows why.
I blame it on the there's like a freight yard about 2 miles away.
Yeah, it's got to be
and a
it.
paper factory and a water treatment facility and constant stream of traffic.
Yeah, that kind of helps too.
And a bunch of strange, shady seismologists wandering around.
Shady.
I
So
need
let's
to buy
move on to
some-
our picks of the week. Who's got something?
Yeah.
I guess I'm first.
Jeremy's first on the list, but I don't see anything.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I can put something up. Pull it out of
Josh.
somewhere.
This isn't exactly a sneak attack, Jeremy.
No, it's,
I know.
it's in here.
I just hadn't bothered because I'm distracted by the lack of
You
video.
hadn't bothered?
So this
Priorities.
is not the best thing on the market, but it is the best thing for somebody who doesn't want to spend time setting something up. GoPro just announced their Karma drone. So this comes bundled with either their brand new, what is it, the Black 5 or the, what is the other one that they've got? The two cameras that they've got.
The Session. Session is
the
the Session's the
Black 5
small
and-
one, I think.
Something like that. So you get two choices. One's about 800, one's about 1100. But the thing is, the drone comes in a package. It's balanced. You don't need to worry about leveling things out. You're not trying to mount a camera on it. If you just want to go out, start filming with a drone, especially a GoPro, so that when you crash it into the lake, it's not going to care. In fact, that might be your best shot of the entire thing. Boom. The Karma is there. The Predator 4 is, or sorry, the Phantom 4 is going to get, no, it's the Phantom is the camera. That's it. The Predator 4 drone is going to get far more battery life out of it. You're going to be able to go far much further, but it doesn't come balanced for the camera. Yeah, you can add a camera to it, but now you're spending hours trying to balance everything out, making sure that your gimbals are set right, everything's balanced. These guys, boom, you've got a nice little metallicized briefcase. You wander out, you hook it up, away you go. So I think a lot of people that, you know, kind of want to get into the camera drone thing or get their hands on a brand new GoPro, this is a decent idea.
I'm
For those
just
of you that
noticing-
have the time, sorry?
I'm just noticing it's really cool. You can detach the gimbal and use it handheld.
Yes, you can.
That's really awesome.
And
That-
it's one of the voice command ones now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's the GoPro Hero 5. That's it.
So it
The-
says
the
4K
Hero 5
video
of the
too?
black.
Yeah, the GoPro Hero 5 does 4K 30, I believe.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's decent and it comes all together. If you're a DIY guy and you don't mind building your own drone, setting everything up and balancing it, don't buy it. It's not worth it. You can get much better for a lot less, but it's going to take a lot of time. This, you pay for it, it arrives, and away you go.
So it's like chip controlled where it'll try to like auto trim and make it easy to fly then?
The vast majority of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think you can turn it off, but essentially it's for the guys that they don't want to know about flight mode 1 or flight mode 2 or dealing with auto leveling. It's just there.
Yeah, I know
So-
they've had this drone out. There's a photo event they announced it at in Germany, and they've been like letting journalists fly this and stuff. I haven't watched any of the coverage, but everything seems to be pretty positive from what I've seen. $800 is so much cheaper than the nearest competitors. Like the Phantom drones are like
Oh yeah.
$2,500.
Yeah, but they'll go 3 times as far.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come with it.
Hey, take it from me. Even a $100 drone will go really, really far if you fly it as high as you can in
And you don't want it back?
like heavy wind. It'll go like 2 blocks. And you'll be lucky to find it up against somebody's house in a tree 20 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Which I may or may not have done. Twice.
Hey, but at
Good
least you
story.
found it.
I did, and I haven't flown it since. So I've flown it twice. I've lost it twice. And now if I fly it, it's like messing around inside the house.
Go and antagonize your child with the drone.
He doesn't like it, so I can't really fly it right now.
Yeah.
He gets
You
scared.
could still antagonize him. He's been bad. Get out the drone. My choice. I've been running GTX 1070 here for a while. It's been a fantastic card. I had another one in for review. Again, a fantastic card. This is one of the least expensive models out there. It's under $400. It's $399.99. Go figure. It is under 400, but after taxes, shipping, whatever, you're out of luck. But EVGA makes a solid product. Their cooling is good. You may not get huge overclocks. The boost clock is not incredibly high, but it's not bad at all at 1784. It's actually got a DVI port, unlike the reference RX 480. So you got that going for you. Solid card, and for not a whole lot of bucks. Well, I mean, considering 400 is still plenty of money, but you're not going to see a better performing card for less for quite some time. So it's kind of like buying in on the ground floor of the old 8800 GTX. That if you bought one of those new, you had like 2 years of just really good performing card that you didn't have to upgrade every 8 months. And we're kind of sitting at that same kind of point here. I mean, certainly we'll get refreshes and updates, but for $400, it's a very solid card. And you do yourself well to get one if you really like gaming, not just on 1080, but I've got it on a 3-monitor setup, and it does perfectly fine in every game that I play. Next, Sebastian.
Okay, I just started messing with this tonight, but
This is your wife's pick, not yours.
yeah, she
Which is the
absolutely
best
loves
thing
this
about it.
thing. She fell in love with it about 1 second after I turned it on, and it's the Acer Predator Z850 gaming projector. It was actually, I'm looking back in our archives, it was Jeremy who wrote about this back in March when they announced it. It is an ultra wide, it's 24:9 aspect ratio, which is 1920 by 720. It is a short throw laser projector. And laser projectors are quite expensive still. This thing from less than 2 feet will project a 120-inch screen.
Wow.
And I have a little like IKEA shelf up against the wall in the living room. I pulled it out like 1.5 feet, set this on it, turned it on, grabbed my old PS3, plugged that in, and within about 30 seconds, I had everything up and running, and I had over 100-inch screen on the living room wall.
So you can
And
watch Winnie the Pooh.
What's that?
So you could watch Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, and that was, Julian sitting in there, and I'm like, well, let's turn on Netflix. Let's look at recently viewed. So yeah, I tested it with Winnie the Pooh, but then I played a little bit with it, and it's ridiculous how big you can get a screen from like 2 feet away from the wall. There's a lot of possibilities for this thing, and the only drawback I can come up with, and I don't see it in retail yet. I don't see it on Newegg or Amazon, but the news post here says that its MSRP, at least at this point, was $5,000. So we have a review unit that, of course, has to go back when I'm done, unfortunately. But it's extremely interesting, to say the least. It has very high brightness at 3,000 lumens. There are other projectors out there that will do that, but I've never seen one that projected quite this big, this close. And we saw a few projectors, like Pico projectors and things, including one that was integrated into a small system at CES. And I believe this is also high refresh rate. So double check, but I think it might be 100 hertz.
Believe so, or at least that's what they were saying.
Yeah, if it was DLP, it wouldn't be anywhere near this. The Z8,
Oh God, no.
yeah, the Z650. They have 2 gaming projectors. The 650 is already out there. Its retail is $12.99. So it's expensive, but it's not out of the realm.
But it's also about a 5-foot throw, isn't it?
It's longer. I didn't look at it. It's front projection.
That seems to be because looked at these a bit, both for work and just because they're freaking neat. Because, hey, I don't have to have a giant TV and a wall dedicated to it. I just have this little doohickey that you can attach to a ceiling, you can hide anywhere. But it seems to be that the further the throw is, the cheaper it gets. But we're talking 5 feet as the low end.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard to complain about.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I did notice it throws really high, so you could have this, you could almost put this on the floor and then move it a few feet. Like if you had this 3 feet from the wall on the floor, it would project up to about the middle of the wall. A huge screen. You could put this just about anywhere. So I would love to see this offered for about half that or less than half that, but laser projection is just expensive right now. You get a really, really long life on it. It's not like the bulbs that lasted so many thousand hours, you had to replace them. I think the effective life of this is a claimed 30,000 hours. Of course,
That's
it's
a
not
lot of
user
TV
serviceable.
watching. It's a big chunk of your life wasted.
30,000
he's
hours.
gonna
Yeah, I don't
like
think
it.
I'd ever have to really replace that.
Yeah.
But very interesting, very expensive, but very cool.
What do
We
you
like
the return
physics
shipping on
behind
it,
the
eh?
short throw stuff. I know that Epson makes a projector. That we're
Yep.
looking at it for work. And how come everything just kind of froze?
Your Skype.
Damn it.
I can hear you
Anyway.
just fine, Josh.
Well, that's nice. But anyway, yeah, short pro. I mean, short throw seems to be the rage. And they work well, which is cool.
Yeah, like in
And,
my living room,
how
there's no way I could
loud
have
is it?
I
It's
could
probably
not have a
not
standard
loud at all, is
projector
it?
in here
Yep.
because I've got a ceiling. I'd have to take the ceiling fan out and stuff. Like I have obstacles. So like mounting a projector up in the ceiling, I have like one
come on.
wall I could
If you
kind
get
of
that
use
ceiling
for it.
fan spinning fast enough, you could have a VR room.
Ooh, good point. Put mirrors. I could just wrap the aluminum foil around the blades of the fan, get some really cool LED effects.
Now we're talking.
Just have to use the ceiling fan as a DLP color wheel. It's got to get it going real quick.
I could just attach the projector to the ceiling fan and
See,
just
that's
make
what I was
sure I
getting at.
remember to turn off the ceiling fan before I try to use the projector.
You're not going to wrap a cord around anything, you know.
You know, this does have wireless display
you have it.
technology
How
built
about a
in.
battery?
I'd have to attach a battery pack. It has like a standard like PC cable, so you know, just paying a battery from the ceiling fan. Get it like a UPS.
Oh, no,
Just
splice
charge
it
up a
into the mains
UPS.
that the ceiling fan runs off of.
Even better. I'm an idiot, of course. It's regular mains power. Yes, great point, Jeremy. I'll just
How loud
install
is
an
it?
outlet in the ceiling next to the ceiling fan and just
Exactly.
splice into it.
What could go wrong?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, I'm going to ask this one more time. How loud is it?
It's pretty noisy. It's about as loud as like a desktop computer at load. It's not like whining or anything, but you can hear like the sound of the fans going. So if you're watching a movie, unless it's like super quiet passage, you're not going to hear it over the soundtrack, but I could
It's still
definitely hear it
outside.
going. It doesn't scream or anything. I'm not trying to say it's like it's really whiny. It's just like you can hear the air and the fans.
Cool. Ken, do you have a pick or do you care?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope and nope.
So that's our short show.
Our
This
short
was made
throw
link-
show.
Short throw show that was made lengthier by our technical difficulties in the beginning that were never fully satisfied, but that's okay because it probably wasn't Ken's fault. It was everybody updating Skype that they didn't want to.
Hey, everybody, are you not fully satisfied? Are you looking for more length in your podcasts?
No,
No, I
just
prefer the
girth.
Josh can help.
Yeah. Girth is much better.
Oh.
So, yeah, we don't have an advertiser this week. We don't have half of our people. That's okay. We didn't miss him much. Sure, we miss Ryan and his checks that he writes out to
would have
writers.
held us back. He would have tried to move things along, and I wouldn't have been as long-winded.
Whatever.
So everybody benefits.
Everyone. So that's it. Thanks for joining us again. You can find us at pcpro.com/podcast. You can find us on Twitter. Donate to the Patreon, and eventually we'll get the Josh's mailbag showing up. That'll be a lot of fun. Maybe
Josh's
on a Thursday
mailbag?
night.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That way you can get drunk and take Friday off and have a 3-day weekend.
Sweet.
I got to do that. But anyway, with that, I will say good night. I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Sebastian Peak.
And behind the camera is Ken, the lovable Ken, who does not look anything like that.